DIY.
DIYers, we are here in the building. What the hell happened to the? Hold on, we're gonna do the round of applause, right? What do we? Technology has its ways. Come on, we got to do this right. We got Mickey Factz in the building. First and foremost, how you doing, sir?
Man, I'm amazing. Thank you for having me here, Curtis. Love your platform. Love what it is that you do to push forward the thought process of lyricism and everything that's involved with it. So, pleasure's all mine to be here.
Well, we appreciate you helping a new generation navigate this space because, you know, the internet comes with its own frustrations at times. I see firsthand. I can imagine what it's like for you, for somebody who's a practitioner in this, to have people who have never done it tell you. Well, that's actually not factual, Mr. Mickey Factz.
It's ridiculous, man. It's the same thing with doctors, and scientists.
That's a good point.
People that are practitioners, and then you got random people with no actual like selfie of themselves, and random avatars telling you that you're wrong. I mean, that's the internet,
That is the internet for you. For those who are not familiar, Mickey Factz is more than just an elite lyricist. He's a pioneer of rap's written craft, a Bronx-born wordsmith. He earned his stripes in legendary BET Cyphers, landed on the cover of XXL's 2009 freshman class, and has written along the likes of Lupe Fiasco, Kanye, Lil Wayne, John Legend, and Kid Cudi. He's also a founding member of Lupe Fiasco's Society of Spoken Art and the creator of Pendulum Inc, which I have firsthand seen the gems that are here, that are sitting in there. The first academy dedicated to teaching the science of lyricism. Today, we're diving into the creative process, the making of Mickey MauSe, a classic in a lot of people's books, and his definition of elite lyricism. And where lyricism is going to go in this world of weird ass AI and the inevitable things. I mean, there's a lot of great things about AI. We'll get to all of that stuff as well, but it's a really different place to navigate, man. But I really want to start with the origin story, the things that get people kind of familiar with, what makes you who you are. Tell us a little bit about your origin as a lyricist. What experience do you think specifically, or what experiences shaped your style as an MC?
First and foremost, I gotta give love to my father. I was born in 1982, so in July, so my birthday's coming up, and the whole 1982, while I'm in my mother's womb, my father was rapping to me while I was in the womb.
Word.
He put a record out in 1982, 1983 called Streetwise. It's on Vine. Well, it was on Betamax. It was this big Betamax thing. So I had the opportunity to really kind of have it embedded in me before I even, came to fruition. From there, my first step into lyricism was Big Daddy Kane. Hearing him and seeing him, how he danced, how he rhymed, how he dressed, he had the women, but he also was tough, the haircut, the jewelry. Like, he was like the epitome to me at that time of hip hop. I got onto it around 1988, 89. So I had kind of missed the KRS, the Rakim era. I came on with Kane. And, obviously as a kid, off and on, we got hip hop songs, Nice and Smooth, Crisscross, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I was getting into the friendly hip hop stuff until, I delved into Wu-Tang. That was the first, at 11 or 12 years old, that was the first album I purchased, bootleg. Because I couldn't go into stores. So, Harlem, I'm from the Bronx. So Harlem was right there, and across the street, they were selling bootleg tapes and bootleg CDs. So I had about $10 on me that I had saved up, and I went across the street from where my church was, and I bought a Wu-Tang tape. Wow. And from there, that's when my mind kind of opened up to lyricism, and then it delved into Biggie, Nas, Redman, Jay, Joe
Mhm.
Budden, Cassidy, Graf, and then 50 Cent, Banks, or then it just kept spiraling, spiraling, spiraling. So I took from everybody, you know what I'm saying?
It,
So yeah.
I was gonna say it's interesting how you hear, I'm an 85 baby, but it's interesting how you'll hear so many folks that come out of that era, they'll say the same influences, but it'll send people down very different paths in terms of their own music that they make. What would you say sparked, I guess, the passion or the obsession with going deeper into more dense writing?
Man, so I think, and you know this as an MC, at first it starts off as emulation. We're
Sure.
emulating the people that we love. That's how we teach ourselves what it is that we do. We are trying to be the people that came before us.
Mhm.
So the first people that I emulated ever was Bone Thugs and Harmony. And I was sitting down and rewriting their lyrics and stop, play, rewind, stop, play, rewind, stop, play, rewind, just to write their lyrics down so I can recite it in school.
Right.
Because first of the month was very popular at that time. So I wanted to be the only one that could recite first of the month. And this was right before like Crossroads hit. Like we didn't have like For the Love of Money or a Thuggish Ruggish Bone popular in my school in New York. We got first of the month because of MTV.
Mm.
So I was able to recite the entire song. So I continued to do this with different MCs. And from that, I started to do parody rap in high school. Like I was writing my own stuff,
Mhm.
but like I wasn't confident enough to say the stuff. So like I was doing parody rap, very misogynistic parody rap, like Rough Riders Jigga, like I would do pigeons because of
Right.
Sporty Thieves, you know what I'm saying? And then
Shout out to Sport.
everything that Jay would say, like I would just flip it around. And that's kind of how I taught myself how to write rhymes. And then obviously you hearing different kind of patterns and different, techniques from Eminem to Royce to everybody was doing all of these different things.
Mhm.
And I was like, yo, I want to try to do all of these things too. And I began emulating and figuring out who I want to be as an artist after a while.
It seems like whenever you talk to a lyricist and you hear about the story, you hear about a similar pathway, and that you study the ones, because there hasn't been a school up until now, I should say.
Yeah,
There hasn't been a school for this where literally your textbook is the albums that you're picking up.
yeah,
Absol's another one of those that he told me straight up. He said he was thankful that he worked in the Magic Disc store, because that was all the courses that you needed were sitting right there inside there.
yeah.
But with that said, you talked about it one from like a parody rap. When did it become serious to you? Like, were there early verses of yours that made you realize, nah, I got something special that separates me even from the people that I'm studying?
Um, so it got serious for me, and like I started writing my own stuff in like 1997, but I
Mm.
wasn't really good. I didn't have projection, I didn't have delivery of flow. I just was writing bars. So I didn't
Mhm.
know how to rhyme on beat. And um, you know, I quit because I jumped in the battle with my rhyme book and I got embarrassed by this guy named Fat Cat. He cooked me. He cooked me bad, and
Oh,
I quit rapping. And then my best friend at the time, Jay Money, he was like, "Yo, you kind of got some." He was looking through my rhyme. He was like, "You got some stuff. You should just practice and come back."
right.
So the whole summer, the entire summer of '97, I didn't go outside, and this was kind of like the beginning of who I was becoming.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed in the house and wrote rhymes, memorized, taught myself how to rhyme on beat, taught myself how to freestyle off the top of the dome. And I did that for 2 months straight.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go, I literally did not go outside. So when I came back to school in 1998,
Right.
oh man, I went through everybody because I had all of these rhymes memorized. Now I could go off the top. If I ran out of rhymes,
Right.
it was just So that's when I started to take it serious. And I went into the studio that year too, 1998. And the very first song that I recorded was a song called 6 Express. And the verse goes, the 6 Express is the best. Player haters is vexed. Pull out my text because they play me too close like next. They need to back up before I pull my gats up and get them strapped up. I always get the victory, just ask Puff. I smack up any MC who try to act up. Niggas be feeling my lyrics like they sniffing crack up. It's that thug cat renegade who buzz cats, but you know I love stacks. So like I was already doing that.
He was in that pocket, right?
At 16.
16, yeah.
You know, so like now in the pot, and that's my first time ever recording. So but as you can hear in the content, because of who I was listening to for technique was high, but content was very low. I was talking about stuff that I wasn't doing as a 16-year-old.
Right.
So I say all of that to say, you know, from there, when I realized that I was really good, was when in 2002, Missy Elliott wanted to sign me after hearing a demo of mine. That's when I knew I was good.
Right. And where was this at that this occurred?
I was still living in New York City. My aunt was doing Missy Elliott's hair at the time. She slipped it to Missy and she heard it. And then whoosh, that was the end of that.
Man.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
That really highlights too. I mean, being in the right region and how that could have a drastic effect on the kind of MC you become or the type of writer that you choose to be. You told that story about somebody cooking you in a battle. Meanwhile, a few years later, around I say 2001-ish, is when I got cooked in my first battle. And I had watched it from a distance. I didn't recognize how nerve-wracking it was until I was in there and you were around a crowd of people sitting, you know, this is high school. And I made the mistake of pulling out my notebook because I was like, I can't think of nothing. I can't. And then from then on, I said, I got a choice. This could either be one of those canon events that make you quit or you come back and get better. That makes me wonder, though, about you. Before we knew you as Mickey Factz, what type of writer would you say you were? Was it more so like, was it poetry? Was it more battle bars or was it journaling?
It was definitely like a battle style, very creative storytelling. Like I wanted to really I really got into storytelling. I think Sporty Thieves, Street Cinema really kind of opened my thought process of what I can write a story about. So I had wrote a story about desperados, like in rhyme format. I did bank robbery stuff. You know, I did, you know, stuff with women betraying me, you know, like, so I was a storyteller, but when I couldn't do the storytelling things, I would do the parody rap. And if I was battling, I had battle rhymes just ready to go. So like, it was like a combination of those three. I wasn't really introspective. I didn't really get introspective until 2005 when Common B came out. B changed my entire life. It changed my entire life.
What was about that project specifically that has such a big impact on you?
Well, I think between Kanye West making College Dropout and seeing somebody not rapping about violence, I hadn't seen anybody not rap about violence before.
Facts.
And I was like, this is actually good. You know what I'm saying? I actually really like this. But it wasn't like technically proficient. Common B came out. The beats was good. It was soulful. And then the technique was there. And then he was introspective. And I said, this is it. If he can do this, Common can do this, I can do this. In this realm. With all of this technique, now I can bring this into my music now. And from then on, I stopped rhyming about violence.
I feel like, and it may be a different terminology for you, but I feel like sometimes those projects come out and it almost gives you permission to tap into some other corner that you knew maybe it existed, but you didn't know quite what it looked like at its highest level. It's those projects that happen. College Dropout was that for me as well. And then when I heard that, I was like, oh, I knew there was more things to talk about, but I just didn't know what that would sound like. You know, and it not be categorized as, I remember there's a website called mp3.com They used to have like, you know, alternative rap and
Yeah.
alternative. They had all these weird genres that they came up with, but it didn't really properly define just how much variety is out there. You know, your mixtape, Mickey MauSe, is often cited as a classic. What makes it special to you in your catalog?
Mickey MauSe was a existential project. You know, I was transitioning from being on RCA, and I didn't, you know, I was trying my best to appease the label. Like, you hear a lot of stories where artists don't want to conform to do their own, to do what the label wants.
Right.
So, you know, I actually was with it because I wanted to get that mainstream success. I felt like that's something that I always desired. So I was okay with bending and doing to, you know, in terms of singles. When they didn't choose the singles that I put together that they gave me, I began to, you know, my in-house A&R was like, you need to do something, you need to reinvent yourself. You need to do something. Because I did this Deadmau5 freestyle. He was like, this shit is hot, but no, but who cares? Why don't you do this? Why don't you become a painter? Since you like art so much, why don't you become a painter in the 80s and put this character in there and create something that's never been done before from this perspective? And it was a challenge because I had never did anything like that for a whole project, because it was a little confusing to me at first. I was like, so I'm rapping as a painter, but I'm not Mickey Factz. He's like, you can do all of the technical stuff you like to do, but also you need to be emotional and you need to tell a story that actually happened. Now you can tell it however you want as somebody that was there that didn't exist, but it's through the listener's eyes. And I was like,
that's a bar. That's a hell of a bar.
And when he told me that, I became this painter. Like, I literally taught myself how to spray paint. I taught myself how to paint. I started to read biographies. I read biographies on Warhol, Basquiat, Robert Rauschenberg, Keith Haring. And I really liked Keith Haring's story the most. So Mickey MauSe is actually like loosely based on Keith Haring's life.
That's what I was reading. Right.
So I produced the entire project, right? There's some co-producer here and there from other artists, from other producers, but I produced the entire thing, sampling Danger Mouse and Deadmau5. So that was my first time doing that. And I recorded the entire thing at Sony. And the engineer, he was like, this is so good, I'm not gonna log any of this into the Sony's. Like, you're gonna walk away with these masters. He said, this is too good to be here.
Oh, wow.
So I have the masters to Mickey MauSe.
Yeah.
And he was like, you can't, because I tried to give it to him, and they was like, we can't do nothing with it. The sample cost is too high. So he said, just take your masters, just take them. And
it's unheard of.
And don't act like, because the label, this is Sony. So for those that don't know, Sony had a label. They had a building, and in this building was RCA, Jive, Epic. All of these labels was in the building, and they had one studio. And being that I was in New York, and a lot of these other acts were never in New York, I used that studio every day. I went to that studio it was free. So I would just go there and record. And when they didn't want to put it out officially, Lupe called the A&R and everything, and they said no. Then the engineer, who wasn't the A&R, the engineer gave me the masters. Take these with you, and you're good to go. So that project means a lot to me because it kind of gave me my salvation. I let my hair grow all the way out. I had a beard for the first time as an artist. I had hair. I didn't comb my hair. I wore the same outfit for like 8-9 months. I slept in the park. You know what I'm saying? I went to art galleries and kind of was painting outside of the art. I was doing all kind of wild stuff.
Yeah, you became the art.
It was like method acting, but I call it
Mm.
method rapping. So that's what I did.
One thing I noticed too, it's always interesting to me that when you have sort of those magnum opus moments for artists, right? That writes with as much detail as you do, that has all the technical skills that you do. It's so weird how simplicity finds its way. Two things. One is it's weird how simplicity finds its way to these works that people often cite as classics, but also how your catalog before shows hints of that. I think of the In Search Of mixtape and how you're already rapping in a spot where a lot of rappers at that point in time in that year were not trying to rap over those beats. That's why NERD was such a like, damn, what is this? You were in on pockets and you sound comfortable, but conceptually, that's where you see the growth with a Mickey MauSe, is that is a patience there.
Yes.
That you're going from line to line. You're even allowing the story to tell itself without having to overwrap it. And then when it's your turn to show up on front stage, like you're doing it from it sounds like you're doing it from a place where you're ultimately all the way dove into the artwork that's there.
So, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I know people are wondering, those who love that project, they're wondering about the sequel. Yes, the sequel is done. I just have to pay these producers. And it's better than the original. It is unbelievable.
Oh, word.
It is unbelievable. There's concepts on here that have never been done before. So think like, when I did A-, like I got stuff like that on this project, but in art form. It's unreal. It is unreal.
How are you doing that and you so clean shaven right now? Like that doesn't make any sense. How you got a part two? Ain't no afro, ain't no beard. Like what are we doing, man? It's like,
well, when we
it's almost like you didn't have to do that. It's almost like you just grew as an artist or something. What the hell is that about?
when we shoot the music, so I recorded the entire thing during the pandemic in the month of May. I wrote it. I wrote the entire thing in the month of May, and I recorded it in 2022. It's just I need to pay these producers. But it's that to me is my magnum opus as well. That will be my next magnum opus. Yeah.
Well, that's a hell of a problem to have, to just have to pay the producers. I mean, that's something that can, eventually get its way taken care of. So many artists get to a place where, they get into a certain age group, and we know how hip hop treats its artists, or how the fans, I should say, not hip hop. Hip hop has a good way of celebrating each other, but there's a lot of conversations when it comes to ageism in hip hop. What is your take on that in general? And I got some other questions, because to hear you say, my best work is yet to come is always encouraging to those of us, I'm 40, who are, completely looking at this as the best is yet to come.
Well, people like to say that hip hop is competitive and it's a sport. Mm-hmm. And it is competitive, but I don't look at it as a sport anymore. Athletes deteriorate from a physical standpoint, whereas the mind, you get wiser as you get older. You start to see things differently from a different lens as you get older as well. Right. And that's why you become better with time, because your mind is working. The only difficult thing that an MC may come across is keeping up, if you want to, keeping up with the newer age, right? So like somebody like Big Daddy Kane, he came to Pendulum Inc. and he said, I had trouble, the rappers were rapping behind the beat where we were rapping ahead of the beat.
Yeah.
So he had to conform to be like the MCs that were popping right then and now. From the 80s to the 90s, there's always a transition period. So right now we're in, as far as hip hop in the global landscape of things, we're in a trap flow, triplet flow, double time kind of flow, spatial rhyming kind of thing. As lyricists, we focus so much on the words and the content. Sometimes we just negate the vibe and the feeling. So we as MCs, we're just really like focusing on impressing our fans, each other, from a cerebral standpoint, right? And that's why we're always going to kind of, a writer will always be a writer, because we're constantly thinking, we're constantly seeing things that inspire us, we're constantly hearing things that may spark ideas, and we're always introspective and looking to be better. Like as we get older, we want to be better. We want to be in a space where we're providing for our children, our families, and for the greater good of society. So like we're always thinking of how can we be better. We're not in the immature stance of our 20s and our teens, and then we're not in this confusing space of our 30s midlife crisis. Our 40s is really where you kind of put it all together,
especially when hip hop is only in its, you know, its 50th plus year. Like we it in itself as a human being is someone who is still very much figuring out who they are era to era, if you think of that person as a 50-year-old. But even with that said, man, I love that analogy you have about this not being exactly like sports, because there's certain physical things that you just cannot, you cannot reverse. Your knees is done, your ACL, all these things happen. But I tell you, man, all across my timeline right now, you know who I'm seeing that's getting, they're getting a new one ripped every single video I see on my timeline? Who you think it is?
Oh, that would be the big bro Jim Jones.
Nah, not even. Well, we can get to that eventually. I'm talking about Will Smith.
Oh, Will Smith. I haven't seen that on my timeline yet.
Yeah, well, maybe because I've made content about it, because, you know, somebody who came up during the Fresh Prince era, and I saw these things and I'm like, yeah, man, he always got the freshest kicks. He, like, you know, and he does the music and all of this, and he's doing the acting, the comedy, all of that stuff was inspiring. But as he ages, it seems like the demographic that he's going for feels disconnected. And I love that point that you make, that even though you are technical in your skill and you're finding your pockets, you have to figure out, okay, with all that said, how do I connect and not just impress? He's someone that I feel like is not navigating the space in a way that people are connecting with. What do you think separates rappers who age well in this game versus those who eventually fade out, or the people try to kick them out?
I think the issue with Will Smith is he is 50 and he is still trying to party. He's literally Unc. Like, I've been getting called Unc lately here and there, but he's literally Unc. And
what do you, wait, before you get into that, what do you mean by that? Because I think a lot of people have an issue understanding that even our generation has a different definition of who Unc is. What do you say he's really Unc? What do you mean?
Like, he has no business as a from the public perception, he has no business partying or making records about partying, talking about he loves girls and all of these things. This was his moment to make one of the most introspective pieces from a project perspective ever.
Facts.
And what's interesting, about a month ago, I listened to the project and I was like, let me listen to a classic Will Smith song. And I listened to Just the Two of Us, and he was in the pocket. He was talking about his love for his son. The technique was there. We as fans needed to hear, and maybe it's a little pretentious, or maybe it feels like we're asking for too much, but it feels like he needed to use this album as therapy and to reconnect with his fans from that perspective. Talk to us about what was running through your head when you slapped Chris Rock.
Hello.
Talk to us about how you felt at the red table when your wife said what she said. What happens? Talk to us about anxiety before you do a film. Talk to us about, you know, dealing with the pressures of being a celebrity and how it's still relative to us as the people that are listening. You know, you have to connect with the people now. And because he's created this thing where he does comedy on his IG and inspirational stuff, but we've seen you in a negative light in the past 3 years. It's been pretty rough for you, Will.
Yeah.
So as much as you want to make fun music, you're hiding behind a mask. And that mask, people know it already. People know what's going on. And now that music is a little bit more emotional and content driven, and people are starting to feel, and being that he is 50, that's what people really wanted. And they didn't get that.
And it's unfortunate because even like I see a video that is kind of getting, I guess, good reviews, and maybe he's heading in that direction. He did a freestyle, or, you know, what the kids call a freestyle now, on a certain platform. and he addresses, you say something about me, I might run up on stage, and it just feels so like, and I don't know how much of that is driven by maybe having, ghostwriters or having people who are collaborating with. I don't know what that is. All I know is when you don't look like you're in tune with yourself, it's hard for the audience to stay in tune with what you're presenting to them. So it's a lot of great points, and that authenticity seems like that's the thing that always wins.
I mean, he apologized to Chris. So if you apologize to Chris, why say that? That was just in poor taste.
I'm trying to win the internet, man. And 3 Stacks said, all I can rap about is colonoscopies, but I got to show him I can still party at 50.
Yeah, which is, what's interesting is, so I wrote this album. I wrote an album in 10 days last week.
Oh shit. Okay.
And I recorded it in a day. And during this process, I was like, I don't want to prove to people that I'm nice on this project. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to just really dig deep and talk about accountability, talk about my thought process of getting older and what that looks like, me going to the doctor and what that feels like. Mm-hmm. What does retirement look like? Anxieties, different stories of my friends and what they went through, successes, failures, grief, loss. Like I wrote about all of these things. Mm-hmm. And it kind of opened my mind to, because we're going to always get vibe music. That's what is pushed. But we're not vibing every day. The average American is not vibing every day. They're going through it. And I think it's important for us to create soundtracks to their lives. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of music that we go to for nostalgic reasons, for reasons. It's almost like looking at photos in a photo album. There's certain songs that are not genres that I'm always listening to, but it's that one song that I'll go to. Like, for instance, a Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit immediately opens up pockets of my brain that I'm like, yep. I remember where I was at, my grandmother's house. I remember this, what street it was on. Those things can connect, but I feel like the common thread is telling stories that are authentic to you, because I mean, that's the most evergreen thing that you can do, is be honest. I made a song called I Told My Wife I Want to Rap Again, right? After having all the success within YouTube and her coming into my life in a time where that rapping wasn't the number one priority and producing, I said, well, I'm sure there's other people who are having that conversation as they've had, their own professional lives. And now they have the security and they're looking at this and saying, I really want to make music that is honest to where I'm at, but how does my family look at that? I mean, these are stories that need to be told because there's somebody else out there that needs to hear that. You wrote an album in 10 days. It's really got me thinking, what the hell does your current writing process look like? Is it still pen to pad, phone notes? Are you, creating them in your head and then kind of recording as you go? What does that look like?
So right now, so let me walk you through a couple of my writing processes as I've grown older. For a very big portion of my life, I want to say I've been writing for 27 years. So I want to say maybe for about 21, 22 years, I've just put great bars down, great ideas down, and then build from that. After the Royce diss, I began to kind of get into this conversational kind of writing, where I will write out exactly what I want to say, and then I will find the words to rhyme with it from there. So like I'll write out my conversation, and then I will just replace the words with the rhymes. And I'll just edit it and fit it, and then I'll just, so that's been my process. So that's why it's been a little bit quicker for me to write music now. And then, sometimes there's a long conversation, sometimes it's a short conversation, sometimes it's a vibe, sometimes it's just introspection. So like I'm able to write quicker because I know exactly what I want to say now.
Yeah. And I definitely, we're going to eventually get to this conversation about Pendulum Inc, but I'm curious, now that you're teaching a lot of these things, and I'm not sure how long or how far back the teaching goes. I know that Pendulum Inc was 2021, right? When you first
2022.
Okay. I'm curious how that changes, if anything, the way that you're approaching writing, because, now you got younger eyes that are looking at it with a very, student and meticulous. Yeah, they're fine tooth. They're looking through it like, are you doing the things that you teach me? I say that because I know that firsthand. The moment I start talking shit about some production techniques, they like, well, let me see what you're doing, Curtis. It's that time. So has that shifted anything in terms of your process?
Yeah, I've gotten better as an MC because of Pendulum. I teach there, and I teach, our first year I taught, writing and scientific techniques, all high level stuff, reverse punchline, triple entendre. We taught that. But then when we had the second year, I began to move into the space of more songwriting and rhythm and stylistics, basically teaching you how to rhyme on beat and how to do different types of cadences and how to create the simplistic side of what it is that we do. And a lot of that bled into my music over the last couple of years, the past two, 3 years. Practicing what I preach is very important because I don't want to look crazy out there. I'm doing all of these breakdowns and I'm not upholding that same standard. So a lot of it is, I have to, I don't have the luxury of wanting to be a palatable artist at sometimes. Sometimes I have to go off the deep end so people could be like, well, Mickey did it. So, and he's talking about it. So it's okay. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, my writing process due to Pendulum Ink has gotten better.
Yeah. And like I said, we're going to get into that conversation. I'm just tell you right now, for those of you that are writers that are trying to improve upon what you're doing and you're looking for a course that really breaks that down step by step, I was in there just curious because I'm at a point now where I'm recognizing what you were talking about, where you looked at some of your older work and you said, I think there's more here to tell in terms of a story. I think there's more, for me, it's more visual details. How do I get the people to smell the things that I'm talking about within the writing? How do I get you to not just relate to what I'm saying, but like you walk away from there having an impression that's like, damn, when you put it that way, it sticks with me. So there's different techniques, even 20 years into this, that I'm looking at and I'm like, I want to elevate, especially because I listen to a lot of folks who were, crazy at what they do. What does that look like daily for you, though, in terms of your process? Do you write daily or is it in bursts when inspiration hits?
I do not write daily. I do not. I write when it's necessary. So like if somebody wants to feature, I'll write. If I'm doing a project, I'm trying to get it done as quickly as possible. If I got to do a cipher, I'm setting time aside to write that cipher. If I got a battle coming up, setting time aside to write the battle. So I don't just kind of just write. It doesn't do anything for me. Like I have so many rhymes. Like it's just like I feel like it's not conducive. So like in class, to show the students what the technique looks like, I will write. But aside from that, I'm not just like, it's just not for me, at least. I think for people that are where I've gotten to, I don't feel like I need to. But for the people that are trying to be better, I do believe you should write as much as possible. This has to be used as an exercise.
Sure.
It's a muscle. So like, you got to work that muscle. So I make sure to record and write something every week, but every day, no. Nobody works out arms every day. So like you shouldn't write every day. You should do it when you're ready, And
I think you make a good point in that exercising your writing doesn't always come in the form of just writing a verse.
Right.
Depending on if you're doing any kind of writing online, like, whether you have a daily blog, or you have, the way that you're communicating with other people. Even when I'm doing content, I feel like a lot of structuring content feels like arranging a song at times, and that I have to make sure that I put something in the beginning that makes somebody want to listen past the 30-second mark. And just weird little things like that, where I'm looking and I'm like, that feels a lot like when I was writing lyrics. But let's get into talking about Pendulum Inc. One thing I loved about Pendulum Inc is how y'all clarify the devices that even seasoned rappers I talk to, I promise you, I'll be talking to some of my peers and I'm like, do you know the difference between a metaphor and a simile? Because I promise you, using those like they're interchange, like they just, you can switch them out anytime you want. Internal rhymes versus multis, and you're giving examples in all of the different modules. Why do you think that confusion exists? Because I see a lot of terminology in because then I was really, one class I was good in was English. Like I was killing in English. I was terrible at math, but I was killing in English. And I see certain literary devices get bastardized in a way that I'm like, are you gonna take my hip hop card away if I call that out? You know what I'm saying? So like, why do you think that confusion sometimes exists when it comes to the conversations around lyricism?
Because everybody's teaching themselves.
Hold on.
Somebody's gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Here we go. We're getting started. All right, go ahead. What you mean, man? You know, hey, that's the way we do it, right?
Listen, I'm not here to tell everybody to sign up to Pendulum Ink, even though I would love for y'all all to sign up to Pendulum Ink. But when you teach yourself, you begin to think that this is what it is when it's not. And people start to conflate ideas and get things mixed up and misinterpreted when that's not the case.
Right.
So you got people like you said, you know, I don't use the term. So we try to coin our own terms at Pendulum. So we don't say internals or multis. We'll say multis, but internals for us is shadow boxing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a
typewriters that you had Elzai saying the other day as well.
Yeah. So like, let's talk about internals real quick, right? From what you said, right?
Right.
So there are about 4 or 5 different ways to do shadow boxing, and we break all of these things down. So if I have a line, right? Let me see, right? So this is breaking through with bars, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say we're using through with bars. That's a 3-syllable multi. We're not going to do breaking. That makes it 5. So let's say we're doing through with bars. Shadow boxing would be Mickey Factz is here. I'm breaking through with bars. Went to the club with my thugs, shoot the stars, right? Mm-hmm. So club and thug is the shadow box, right? So now we got the shadow box. That's one way to do internal rhyming, right? Another way to do internal rhyming. Mickey Factz is here, breaking through with bars. Shoot, move with my crew in this cool. Use the jars, right? I'm just saying anything just so we can get the technique down. So what that was, that's called segmenting. Rhyming the segment of the beginning of the rhyme internally within these 2 bars, right? Now, another way that we can do internal rhyming, right? We can look at it's something called hemming, which I did on the Ransom record, right? Avid reader, learning through pages I kept avid reader, learning through pages I kept in trapper keepers, master thinker, studying paintings hanging in gallerias, right? So when you think about the first line, avid reader, avid reader, looking through pages I kept in trapper keepers, master thinker. Now I'm still rhyming internally. I'm rhyming because that's the next bar. That's the second bar, the beginning of it. Master thinker, studying paintings, right? So paintings and pages are rhyming from the first and second bar. Hanging rhymes with pages, slant rhyme, right? Master thinker, studying paintings, hanging in gallerias, Japanese sneakers. I'm flying past Korea, stamped the visa. You know, I don't know the rhyme at the top of my head, but like essentially all of these things, that was hemming. Rhyming in the beginning, rhyming at the end, rhyming at the beginning, rhyming at the end, rhyming at the beginning, rhyming at the end. That's hemming. And then if I want to switch and go to another rhyme pattern, that's pun. Every time pun started a new verse, the beginning of, at the end of his rhyme pattern, he started his third bar with something completely different to do the next thing, right? So and this is when we fine tooth comb through everything, right? So when you let me just pull up a big pun verse really quickly, just so everybody can kind of get an understand. We're having a little bit of class today, right?
No, this is good because it's a good introduction of what they're gonna get as soon as they get there. And by the way, this is genuinely a conversation I wanted to have with this brother, but we had already been kind of like semi-connected. I just want to make sure that y'all were able to be here for this conversation because there's still things I want to ask you about in terms of this canon event with the battling, at least the mainstream version of battling, that I feel like has triggered a lot of people to want to know what's up. But you got that line ready for you.
Yeah, I got it ready.
Yeah.
So what you thought pun shit was weak. Now you can't sleep, gotta keep your eyes open wide and hide your face from the streets. I'm like a beast with a warrant, far from alarming, gave you fair warning. Now you on the stairs falling. I'm calling out any rapper that I doubt, smack him in the mouth, throw him in the yoke, kaboom, then I knock him out. No doubt. Freddie Fox files, 20 shot auto block bow, Benny Block, Porter Rock style, with a twist of black, and I'm proud. Twist your cap and I'm out. Sleep with the fist, just for yapping too loud. What's happening now? Niggas is hard as hell, but they gargamels. Picking on the smallest victim makes them hard to kill. My squad is real. So as you can see, he is constantly rhyming. That piece that he leaves at the beginning of the odd number bar, we call that a safety pin. Because he leaves it open until he goes into his next thing. And when you constantly rhyme the first and the second line, third, fourth, 5, 6, 7, 8, we call that hemming.
But see, I love that y'all are doing that because I feel like that was the purpose of certain literary devices being called what they are, is supposed to help you piece together what these patterns are, or put a word to it, put a phrase to it, so that when you're actually applying these to your writing, you're like, oh, I'm doing that right now. Even hearing Elzhi talk about in the clip that you had about when he does typewriting, and then you think about the way that you hear a typewriter, and you think about it just instantly connects with you. And I feel like it's almost like an extension of another language that we all understand, especially when you bring up certain things. It's like, oh, I see what you did with that so-and-so. That's needed. But look, here's a quote that one of my subscribers, good friend of mine on here, she's always shared this. And we found this out last year. America's reading average is below third grade and comprehension is even lower. And then she adds here, especially post-COVID, there's a dependence on devices and now even AI. You said that Pendulum Inc, you kind of brought that to the public in 2022. And to me, I mean, seeing you be before this, I feel like this next energy, this next resurgence of folks who are very interested in how to improve their writing. One thing I want to ask you before we get into that topic is, for those who don't know, what is Pendulum Inc, and why did you create it?
Pendulum Inc is a school for lyricism and hip hop. We believe in keeping the sanctity of the foundational aspects and advanced aspects of lyricism, and teaching not only adults, but young adults and children how to properly kind of write these particular techniques. We just believe it's important. Not only do we teach you foundational writing and advanced writing, we teach you foundational stylistics and rhythm, as well as advanced rhythm and stylistics. We have a mental health specialist on staff who is called Rhymecology. So that's a once a month mandatory class to attend. Everything is live. We do have a site where you can go to the site, which is where you went, Curtis, where we have our modules that you can go through. But if you want to do the live experience and be with other MCs, we have that as well. Monday classes, Tuesday classes, Wednesday classes, Thursday classes. On Thursdays, we do content creation, battle rap, and we teach the business of music. Fridays, we have our dojo, which we call our freestyle space, where you go in there and learn how to freestyle, and you just pick words together and kind of put it together very quickly. Sundays, we have our sync licensing class, where some of our students work with a artist who places 200 songs a year. And we've gotten 2 songs placed already at Pendulum with our students. One is on American Me right now, and another one I think is going to be there's gonna be something coming up with some Jordan Peele movie. But you know, we're trying to change the narrative that people can make songs, you can learn the business, you can learn how to write rhymes. If you want to be a lyricist, you can learn how to be a vibe rapper. You can connect with yourself through our rhymecology course. If you're a manager and you want to learn the business, you can get that. If you want to be a battle rapper, you can come here. If you just want to come here just to create content like what I do, we have somebody who worked at Meta, who teaches the analytical side of things, how to create the content. And then once a month, we bring in a legendary MC. So far this year, just this year, we had Elzai, Tretch from Naughty by Nature, R.A. the Rugged Man, Exhibit. We had Mick Jenkins on Wednesday. This past Wednesday, we had Mick Jenkins. And last month, we had Sticky Fingers. That's just this year.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? And
that's what pisses me off. I don't think people understand. That's why when I'm seeing people arguing with you on Twitter, I'm like, excuse my language, shut the fuck up. Do you understand us coming up? We didn't have access to a Mickey Factz because he was currently cooking. He was cooking the resume that he now enjoys today. But it's like, y'all don't understand how much those of us who came up and it was like this was the only way. There was no vibe criteria. There was no vibe category that you could see yourself succeeding in. Lyricism was the foundation for at least the hip hop heads. So being able to learn directly from Mickey and as well as the network that he has is man, that's a gift. That is a gift.
We had graduations where, you know, people get degrees. You get, if you were successful the year, you get awards. I took students to an Atlanta Hawks game. You know, I took 60 of us to an Atlanta Hawks game so we can all meet each other for the first time. That was our first year. You know what I'm saying? Then we had in-person classes where we brought Stolly in. We brought Sky Zoo in, you know what I'm saying?
Unheard of.
Yeah, this is unheard of. You know what I'm saying? We shut down the Atlanta Hip Hop Museum. They shut it down just for us.
Wow.
You know, and then this year we went to the Bronx Hip Hop Museum. That's not even open yet. They opened the doors and let us walk through an active construction site. And gave us a tour of the building and what it looks like. We couldn't take pictures. That's how early in the development it was.
Yeah.
But they had some stuff that was up. They opened it up for us and they said, when we're complete, please bring your students back for free.
For free. Because we've been, that was one thing I know coming up in my 20s and 30s. I was like, damn, this is a wide open space here to teach this, because there's so many things that, you know, we learn through having different researching styles. Because even when I talk to my guy Daylight, you know, he has a completely different way of researching that I didn't make. It makes no sense in my mind. And mind you, me and him worked at Quiznos at one time together in Carson, California. So it's like we used to have these conversations when we were closing up the shop. But
he's talking about the rapper Daylight?
Oh, Daylight, yeah. Before he had a tat on his face. Yeah, he used to work at Quiznos. He'll tell you. He was like, before it was raps, it was mesquite chickens and all of that. So that's my dog. Like we talked all throughout both of these battles too. But I even talked to him, you know, even his way of making beats when he was making beats on FL Studio at that time, and he was going to the pit and battling. His style of studying is different. Yes. So to have a place where you have, what is it, like 150 modules that are sitting here on the actual website. And then you have the live setting where you can talk to mental health, like all of that stuff is things that I know in my 20s and 30s I would value. But we are in a different time period. And back to that quote that Afro Butterfly had about the literacy rates, I wonder, you know, has there been struggles in connecting with a whole different era of, you know, potential students who have been failed by the school system in a lot of ways?
I mean, I think that teachers are just not doing things. Teachers are not, you know what? Teachers are doing a fantastic job. But first of all, they're not getting paid enough to do what they do.
Right.
But they're not appealing to the children the way they need to be appealed to. And I say that because the phones have taken over the kids. And a lot of them look at success as a measuring stick for respect. So when I go into high schools, I was going into the high schools teaching this stuff, and some kids would be with it and some kids wouldn't. and you know, they would love it. They love the production side of it. Some of them like the writing side of it. Some of them did. I don't wear jewelry. I'm not a jewelry guy. I went to the mall and I bought some fake jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the same schools, and those same kids are now trying to learn from me because they see the success. Went in there when my man was big. I was like, yo, come with me.
Mm-hmm.
Acted like he was my security.
Mm-hmm.
Had my man film it. So now it's a spectacle. Now the students want to learn everything. Now they want to be lyricists because this looks like the cool thing to do. Oh my gosh. Right. But that's from what's being put out into the kids' minds.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Think about when people watch this back. Go back to what I said about Big Daddy Kane. The last thing I said about him that I liked was jewelry.
Yeah, girls, yeah, the jewelry, yeah.
But the first thing I liked when I saw him, he rhymed well, he dressed well, he had the high top fade, he had the girls, he had the jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
That was what got me. That's what hooked me in.
Mm-hmm.
But the jewelry was last. I was impressed by the what he was doing.
Right.
And he was dancing. Like, to me, that was just fire. Like, I was like, okay, cool. So as a kid, we have to appeal to the children. The children want to see success. That's the only way they'll listen, sadly. But that's just how it is.
Yeah, which is why, and this is, I think, is a great segue into the conversation about the battles over the last years. Let's start with the big one. Obviously, the Kendrick Drake one. That I thought was really interesting. Everybody has a different perspective, and I'm curious about yours. But when I saw that emerging, and I saw the things that were happening on both sides that made, more so Kendrick's side, that made a 16-year-old, 15-year-old TikToker who not even a week ago was talking about, you know, their favorite matchas or whatever. Now they're giving you, here's 5 different meanings for euphoria. Number 1. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is interesting in the time period where they say these kids don't want to read. These kids are not concerned about lyricism. It was a really interesting event that I do think brought a lot of curiosity to lyric breakdowns that I haven't seen in quite some time in a mainstream level. Do you feel like lyric breakdown culture, what do you feel like happened to it at that point in time? Did you experience the same thing on your end?
It goes back to, you know, people thinking that they know what they're talking about. And just, you know, it's just getting out of control, out of hand. Everybody has their own interpretations, which is fine. It's like art. But when it comes to particular technique, you know, that's something that's finite.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You know, infinite wise, you can have as many interpretations of something as you want. You know, even from the person who wrote it, they might have intended it to be one way, but somebody can interpret it another way. But the one thing that's finite is the actual technique. He actually did a 2-syllable multi here. You can hear it. You cannot say this is a 4-syllable multi. You can't do that. That is, he did 2, right? So to me, that is what they're not doing. Everybody's breaking down the metaphor or the simile or the entendre, the double entendre, right? The extended metaphor, or he's layering, you know, he's, you know, all of these different things that I was seeing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I mean, you know, I spoke to somebody that was very close to Kendrick, and he was saying that Kendrick was very intentional with a lot of the stuff that he was putting together in terms of how he was layering his stuff. And he, you know, he was doing that purposefully, and he was loaded up to go. He had way more to drop. They didn't think that Not Like Us was going to hit. They didn't think that. They just was dropping records. And it just so happens that one caught fire, and then they stopped. You know what I'm saying? So, but I in terms of like breakdown culture, right? The big one is Dissect Podcast. Like he's at the top of the food chain. He's like
shout out to him, man.
And I feel like, you know, he breaks down a specific artist. Like he's focused on Kendrick, TDE. He might venture into a Joyner and Eminem, but like he focuses on the TDE side of things,
right?
Because he's always trying to find the deeper layer of meanings of things. And then you got guys like Knox Hill, you got guys like Stevie Knight, you got guys that already have been doing it. You got guys like Jay Black. They're like focused in on that side of it. It's just the people that tried to ride the wave off of that kind of just oversaturated the space. I was doing breakdowns to get people to come to Pendulum, because normally I wouldn't do any breakdowns. I wouldn't do any reactions. I just want people to come to the school to learn what this stuff is, and then maybe you can do your own with our terminology. You know what I'm saying? And lexicon.
Well, even with the inaccurate ones, right? Because I saw a lot of stuff where I was like, "Oh boy, y'all are reaching. You gonna break something while they're reaching that you're doing, trying to break this line into 5, 6 different things." But the one thing that I did take away from it positive was that, okay, now we're in this space now, so we're having a conversation. Yeah, there's a lot of people having a conversation that you wonder where the reading comprehension is at to begin with before they start breaking down lyrics. But we're having a conversation. I think what was really interesting about the Kendrick Drake battle versus the Joey Badass and Daylight, Reason, and Rayvon is that it gave an opportunity for those who were on the sidelines watching Drake and Kendrick to actually get involved in it. Because I saw rappers from every region who were like, I got bars. This was South Dakota got to say. And this is what I'm going to put in. But a lot of them are lacking those technical skills that you teach.
Yes.
And so, I wonder now, first of all, what is your take on seeing the way that played out? Just seeing how more common the conversations are of these person's lyrics versus these person's lyrics.
I mean, I think people, it was a numbers thing. People saw the algorithm was shifting at that time. So people wanted to jump into that algorithm. There were people who pushed their projects back because Drake and Kendrick were dropping. There were content creators that would normally not do hip hop. They were forced to go there because the algorithm was shifted. Like even news sites was covering this stuff. Like it had gotten to that point. It was polarizing. You could not avoid it from a social media standpoint. So you had to do it. Even if you didn't understand what was happening, you had to do it. And people were taking from other reactors to be in the algorithm, just to kind of be in the conversation. People didn't know what they were talking about. They just wanted to, because you couldn't avoid it for like a week and a half. That was all that was being talked about from like May, what was it? April 20th, whenever. Was it like that?
Yeah, when Kendrick dropped, well, not even like that, because like that, remember there was a separation of like 20 days after Taylor Made, but it was 5 business days that Kendrick dropped all them songs. We was out of here.
Yeah, so whenever, but Drake kind of set it off. When the leak for push-ups, and then the Taylor Made. So those leading up to what Kendrick did, you couldn't have. That was it. That was all that was talked about. So you couldn't even promote your own stuff. It was impossible. I had breakdowns of other artists lined up, and I said, no, we have to wait.
Right, not in this climate.
it'll get overlooked. It's just right. I had a terminology breakdown, and I was like, I'm getting ready to. He's like, no, don't drop that. Wait till this is calmed down. Terminology. This is a guy who got a following. He was like, no. Just wait.
He himself is like, he's like, no, let's hold off on that. But it's interesting though, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, now there's a lot more lyricists. There's a lot more appreciation, it seems, and I know a lot of that has to do with teams and things like that. But even the way that I'm seeing people show up for the clips right now and the things that they've been dropping, and I've been loving how much. The music sounds like 2025, but you could easily shift a So Be It right in the mix with Mr. Me Too, and it doesn't feel like it's dated, right? They found a way to age in this time and then show off, like you said, the things that get the younger audience interested. But there's a celebration of elite artists, of elite writers in that space, and I'm encouraged to see it, but I'm also discouraged when I see how much people can misinterpret a tweet. Better yet, a double entendre And I'm wondering, I'm like, man, is this, there's times that I think to myself, is this really the right time? And how do we navigate this responsibly as folks who have been practitioners in this? It's almost like you have to show up where the people are at and then be able to say like, okay, you like that, but here's what really made it dope, which is why I thought it was dope that you did the highlight of the Rakim Prophet line by Kendrick, because there was folks questioning you on that. Like, why is that so dope? It's mid. Mid is the worst thing that ever happened. What the hell do you mean?
It's like, what are we talking about here, man? But then when you give them the breakdown, they still like, that's still mid, because they got embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? So like when you get embarrassed, your first initial thought process is to fight back. Even if you're wrong, it's fight or flight. And either they stop typing or they still continue to fight and say that's not what it is. And they'll get out ratio with likes and all of that, and then they don't care. Yeah. So like I think that it's just important. And I don't and I also called this thing down the middle. When Drake was dropping stuff, because so the Family Matters thing, I saw that you said that some of the stuff was elementary, right?
We got that conversation because I know there's some people who why they tag you like I'm in trouble when they every time I say some shit, they like, Mickey, please get him. And I'm like, you know how much I respect this brother, first of all, and his craft. If I'm wrong, I'm the first person to show up and be like, okay, I misread that. But did you get what I was saying about Family Matters and that? Yeah. Not the overall skill set and what Drake does. Drake has his set of skills that makes him who he has been for the last 15 years. But when you're talking about when you've actually sat down to write and you've met people who are avatars who have written like this, and it's like, you doing this, like if somebody wrote that verse for me as a feature, I'm like, you ain't had no time, bro. Like why you playing with me with this Ishin rhyme scheme the entire way through? Like, why are you playing with me right now, bro?
So was that Family Matters, or was that the Fighting Irish freestyle? Which one are you talking about?
So that was Family Matters that we had the conversation, because Maul sparked it off when he said that he felt like Drake out-rapped Kendrick in the battle, even though he I guess said that he lost it, but he felt like Drake out-rapped him. And I was like, well, let's technically look at this with the song that they say is the best battle song of all of them.
So I don't think the first portion of Family Matters is more of a vibe. So from a technique standpoint, he's already down 1/3. He's already down 1/3. It's not there, right? Mm-hmm. The second part of the song is the best part of the song.
Agreed.
To me. But to a lot of people, it's the best part of the song. The issue with this is he disses Kendrick 3 times in that. That is the biggest issue. If he would have stayed on Kendrick on that beat, it would have been a little bit closer, because he dissed. I don't understand why. I'm still in awe that he dissed Ross, Weeknd, Metro Boomin, and he spoke on A$AP Rocky. Bro, focus on Kendrick, right?
You know where I'm at with it? Not to pick it, not to railroad what you're saying, but you know where I'm at with it? It's like when you're watching a battle, you watching a battle and somebody's getting cooked, and they eyeball somebody like, I know this nigga not laughing at me. I got bars for you. And it's like, wait a minute, you got somebody right here in front of them. I feel like that's what happens when you know that you've been outmatched to a certain degree. And it's like, well, let's make it a 20v1. Let's focus on everybody else. And it's like, no, you got to put that energy with the person that is aiming for your head right now. But continue. I'm sorry.
So the third portion of the record which is probably the best kind of wordplay section, right? Mm-hmm. Where he's kind of breaking down and doing some comparison stuff, illusion stuff. He's doing all of these different things, which is great, right? Mm-hmm. It sounds good. It's technically great. But he's harmonizing it, so it kind of takes the sting away. It's a battle. You got to hit hard. So na 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 na, right? So like it's dope, but like writing wise is dope, but like you got to hit hard. Now the middle, where you said the elementary, right? I feel like he kept rhyming the nigga, blowjob nigga, then it told 5 minutes, then it was the same thing, nigga. He was just rapping the beginning half of it. So if it's a 4-syllable multi, he was rhyming the first 2 bars, and he kept going with that over and over and over and over again. But the best bar that Kendrick got in that second portion was tears running down my face, watching all these pussies crying, watching all these pussies die. That's a war cry. Fire. That bar is incredible.
Right.
Is, to me, that's high level technique writing. But he didn't do that for the entire thing. He focused on other MCs. So yes, there was a little bit of quote unquote not high level writing, whereas Kendrick is going into different cadences, different pockets. He's touching on different topics. He's not going at anybody else. He might take a shot at J. Cole here and there, but for 5-6 minutes, he's focusing on Drake. He's not going anywhere else.
On it. Yeah.
Right. So like everything was a character assassination on Drake, whereas Drake, and to his fans, he had to fight everybody else when he didn't have to fight everybody else. He could have took care of them later. That right now you got M. Bison in front of you. You do not need to worry about Vega. You don't need to worry about Blanca, Balrog, and Sonic. Right. You don't need to worry about them. None of them are even Akuma. Respectfully.
You just Chun-Li in the corner doing the rapid kick the opposite direction of your competitor.
Right. And he beat all of those guys. They're not really rhymers, but he beat Ross. He beat ASAP Rocky. He beat, I guess, Metro Boomin, right? I guess The Weeknd. Okay. Did he really go at Future? Not really. So he beat those guys. So we'll give him that, sure. But they're not Kendrick. So to me, he messed up there. Now, to the Fighting Irish freestyle, I love that. I thought that for 48 bars, even if he ended with the Ishin, there was other stuff that he did in there that was high level. He went.
Right.
I don't know anybody. Maybe Cambada. Cambada's probably the only person that I know that'll take a multi and go for 2 minutes straight for the entire. He's the only person that I know that will do something like that. And he does it, but he's also content themed and driven. People just don't. So like when people the Drake Fighting Irish freestyle, I thought that was incredible. Maybe I'm alone in that joint. Maybe I'm alone.
No, but we don't take that as just a maybe I'm alone. You're you. And when we hear lyricists that operate as such, you make fine art, sir. Like you are one of the best to do this. When we know that you're speaking like that, especially me as someone who has came up studying this craft, I listen and I'm like, all right, what am I missing technically on this one? Because when I listen to it, I think that phrase you have is perfect. Vibe raps. Vibe raps are not necessarily concerned with impressing the peers. They're forfeiting the background of whatever environment you're in, right? Vibe raps could be, I'm coming home from the club drunk, and these aesthetically, where these rhyming words are sitting at and how predictable they are appeasing to the ear. I made that original statement about Drake in the predictable flow of that, saying that I've seen rappers, I've gotten to that pocket when I'm being lazy. Because it's like, you know what your story is. If you got 20 of them rhyming words laid up, it's pretty much predetermined. You just got to figure out, your creativity is figuring out how to connect them and how to make this something that is a story that people want to continue to listen to, which, you know, there's a skill that goes into that. But when I'm listening to the competitor, that's like, he doesn't seem like he's a slave to the rhyming word. It seems like he's telling this in the same way you said earlier, in that you said, I tell my story and then I use the rhyming words to connect the story that I've already told. You're not a slave to the rhyming word. At some point, it's like you're looking at that list and it's like, you don't really have too many other places to go unless you start slant rhyming and, you know, figuring other places to go.
So that's what he did, right? So I just looked at the lyrics, right? So he did a 5-syllable multi for about 50 bars. right?
Okay.
So he did a 5-syllable multi for 50 bars, and he might have been rhyming, and he might have had some shadow boxes in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at somebody like Cambada, he'll do the exact same thing for 100 bars.
Right.
He'll do the exact same thing. He did it with Michael Jackson. There's a song called Michael Jackson,
Right,
from Cambada, where he rapped Michael Jackson maybe 70 times.
Jesus.
And the song was about Michael Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody batted an eyelash. Nobody's having wait. Nobody has dissertations saying this is elementary, and then and this is not even a shot at you, but pulling up.
It feel like it, but I ain't gonna take it.
Because the sin is there. Jackson.
Right.
So he did that, and that's a 4-syllable multi. And have you heard that song, Michael Jackson by Cambada?
No, I have not. I gotta peep that out. Yeah.
Do a breakdown of it when you can. So he rhymed Michael Jackson about 70 times.
See, but this is how I know I'm having a conversation. This is why I love that we're having this publicly, because I get what you're saying. That there requires a different part of the brain to figure out how to extend this and then still tell an overarching story that brings all of this and glues it together.
Yes.
I recognize it when I see it there. When I'm seeing it with the Canadian, I'll be looking with a whole lot of skepticism, like, and you know why that skepticism comes there?
Is it because of what happened
with the ghostwriting?
Is that what it is?
I think that was the first thing that triggered me to the point where I was like, okay, now everything's under question. And even the moments where, let me zoom out. The whole purpose of the dissertation even coming out to the public was one of y'all folks over there, not your folks, but one of they folks said he out-rapped Kendrick on this one. And I said, well, let's really sit with Family Matters, because I understand that was a standout song. Let's sit with it. And then, let's sit with it in the context of a battle, not in the context of a song. In the context of a song, I think there's different requirements. There's a different goal, right? When you're talking about going at somebody, you can't vibe rap your way to beating the Kendrick, because here he is now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't vibe rap your way there. So that in the context of the battle, that's what I was getting at. So that's why it even made a public conversation.
Okay. So I agree with you, right? I don't believe that he out-rapped Kendrick. I don't believe that. I feel like Push-Ups was cool. That wasn't out-rapping Euphoria. He no way. Family Matters, 6:16 a.m. 6:16 a.m. was in dope. LA?
Yeah.
That was dope, right? I don't feel like Taylor Made was better than that. I don't feel like that. I don't feel like he out-rapped him on Taylor Made. Like, I don't. I feel, this is just me. Mm-hmm. Family Matters and Meet the Grams, I gotta go with Family Matters. I think Family Matters is better than Meet the Grams. But that night, Meet the Grams knocked it out. It just knocked it out, because at that moment, it was like, what is happening? And we all thought that he had a daughter. So like, it was just, but I do have Family Matters beating that record, writing wise. I do. Mm-hmm. Not Like Us and The Heart Part 6.
Part 6, yeah.
Impact wise, Not Like Us is there. Mm-hmm. From a technique and writing standpoint, Drake kind of went crazy on that. Like, that's the third verse of Family Matters in one song on The Heart Part 6. The issue is he didn't sound like it just sounded like he was giving up. But there was some heavy shit in that joint.
Hey, maybe that's a conversation for another. Maybe that's where I can be a guest, and I want to hear. I literally want to be a student in that situation and see what you see, because I know my chat about to go crazy. But before, I once again want to reiterate: we're talking to a professional. We're talking to somebody who's done this in more ways than 90% of human beings have ever done it. So when I look at it, I'm like, that. All I could get from that song was that technically it felt like it was it was predictable in terms of where he was going to go with it. It felt like it was autopilot, and it felt emotionally defeated. Right? Technically, even when you look at that, it says, okay, he's finally rapping towards one person, but it was so general in the first verse that it could have been. It's like when you get somebody in a battle and they rap it in a battle rap, and they got all of these punchlines that can literally be anybody's address on them, and there's no specifics in there. It just felt unfocused. It felt like, hey, I can rap too, but it was like, then you discredit all that at the end by saying, it's good to get the pen working again. What the hell we been doing for the last 5 songs?
I mean, I feel like, because then I went and opened up your chat, and I think I don't think people are understanding what I'm saying. We all know that Kendrick beat him. Well, not all of us. Right. I feel like Kendrick outsmarted him and out angled him and got him rattled. Mm-hmm. But there's one thing that you cannot deny. What you cannot deny is finite technique. You cannot deny finite technique. That's the one thing that you cannot do. And that's what Drake was doing. Like, no matter how angry people may sound about that, and rapping wise, Kendrick to me beat him. But there are, from a finite technique, if you're asking me about technique and finite technique, Drake did that. He did that. He actually did it. But that's not how a battle's won. And that's what I was saying on Twitter. A battle's not won by that. But if you want to go into that, if you want to go into those dark waters, it can get very dark, and it's not something that people want to see, because then they're gonna be like, oh, wait a second. Yeah, Mickey was right. Because this is what I do this. So when I'm listening, and again, I'm a Kendrick fan, I'm a Drake fan. Kendrick got a lot of 1 syllables. So if we're talking finite technique and 1 syllable rap, when people say, oh, this person, not Kendrick, but when people say, oh, this person rhymed back with cat and hat, but they allow Kendrick to do that. It's okay when he does that. It's okay when Kendrick does the back cat hat. Even though the content is heavy, from a finite technique standpoint, with multis and internals, shadow boxing and segments and all of these different things that we define, Drake has that in the second and third verse of Family Matters and the Heart Part 6. The issue is Kendrick on Euphoria for 5 minutes straight is a masterclass in lyricism and technique and finite technique, right? 6:16 a.m. is more of it's not really finite technique. He's shot maybe 50-60%.
What?
And wait, let me finish. Right. Grams, he shot a higher finite percentage and this is just, and I have to continue to clarify this from a technique standpoint, from a multi. He did it on Meet the Grams here and there, but the focus was the content. So we got him winning content wise, we got him winning song wise, we got him winning impact wise. But when we talk about, if you want to talk about the writing aspect in terms of finite technique, and that Drake did it. He did that. You cannot deny that because it's in front of us. So that's the difference. And it's okay to say, hey, Kendrick won this. But hey, Drake did win this from a finite standpoint. It's okay to say it.
Right. And I'm not, like I said, the last thing I want to do is turn the conversation, the interview into some kind of an argument about.
Oh, no, I would never argue.
That's not what I'm getting at. I'm genuinely asking this because there are parts of it that I'm like, okay, now that the dust is settled, well, let's see the qualities that still have been able to stand the test of time. One thing I will say about when you said when Kendrick gets into that pocket of doing the 1 syllable rhyming, and first of all, can we zoom out and just say, first of all, we talking about lyricism in 2025. Can we just first of all focus on the positive of that you and I are having a conversation I'm talking to Mickey Factz. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
So let me just start there.
Yes.
One thing I do notice, and I have an appreciation for folks who do have the ability to write in many different styles, like a Kendrick, is that Punch actually uses terminology. Daylight talked about it as well, is that because you know that Kendrick has the ability to do this at a high level, this is where he lives at in this particular style. When he shows up and does the one syllable, it's like him hitting a mid-range jumper. It's like him hitting a layup, right? You're not looking at that as him. It's not Shaquille O'Neal hitting the three. His specialty is, I am, like, let's call up Steph Curry for this situation. I'm Steph Curry. I got this perimeter. I got this range. But every so once in a while, I hit you with a little hezzy. I get a little closer, and I'll just hit a technical mid-range jumper. The way I interpret it, at least when I'm looking at a Drake, is that he almost got over-celebrated for hitting three-pointers because he's used to being Shaq and dominating in the post. In this analogy, right? So I'm not saying that I don't think Kendrick takes on a battle like that. I don't think this happens if there's not some level of respect for what can be technically done in the midst of a battle, right? I think this happened for that reason, but I'm looking at it and I'm saying I think a lot of people are judging it from a lens, and I'm not saying you in particular. They're judging it from a lens of, oh my God, Shaq hit a three-pointer, and to me, you know, that requires so much more. But it's like, well, this dude lives in the perimeter. He lives in that range, and it's not as impressive when you see him hit a layup, when you see him, you know, shoot a few free throws, because you're used to him doing this in another place. I think it just gets judged by a different lens at times. But I'm all ears to what you're saying because I want to understand it from the other perspective, because you're not the only lyricist that we respect their pen that has made that case.
So yes, I don't feel I feel like from again, I gotta preface this from a technique standpoint, just technique. When he does the one syllables, to me, that's I don't think that's mid-range. I think that's Bob Cousy with the layup. I think that's a Bob Cousy layup. It's fundamental Bob Cousy segregation, water fountain error. That's the water fountain error.
Water fountain error. What we doing?
I do agree though with you and your Drake point. I actually do agree with that. I feel that Drake didn't take this as serious as Kendrick took it. And the beauty in what Kendrick did from a content and angle perspective, I don't think he even addressed the ghostwriting.
Which is great. Well, he did when he said based on the line with 20 to 20. I put them all in the line with you. Yeah.
So maybe once, right? Like,
right.
There wasn't this overarching theme of you have writers, and I'm like he like a quick bah. But the rest of it was just like he dissected his thought process, and he dissected his background, and he had dissected him with women and his gambling addiction and his relationship with his father. Like he did all of these things, and obviously what happened on Not Like Us, right? I don't want to get into that, but like he did all of these things. He didn't even touch on the writing thing, which to me it shows a level of writing that's high, right? From a content perspective. I believe that literary devices like metaphor and allegory and simile and entendre, Kendrick had more of that than Drake throughout the entire battle. He had more of that. He had more flows than Drake throughout the entire battle.
Right.
So theoretically, yes, he did out rap him. But if we're looking at just the writing from a multi perspective, Drake got him. I mean, it's okay.
Look, and if y'all need more clarity, Pendulum Ink is down there below.
Oh yeah. Pull up. PendulumInk.com.
Let's not forget the main thing is the main thing for sure.
Right. And we could break it down. Like I mean, it's we can count it out. Like I don't think it's a negative thing to say that this person won this category. Like he won one category, whereas Kendrick won about 9 or 10 of them. He didn't fully sweep them. That's if that's what people think. I don't think he fully swept them.
And I think this is where if people will allow their sort of their emotions to get to the side and they're able to look deeper into the things that you're saying. I don't know if I fully see it. I'm gonna be completely transparent, but I'm listening, and I think that's a good step in it because you know you're getting this from somebody that is a legend in this. With that said, who do you feel like is pushing the envelope in lyricism today that doesn't get enough recognition?
Cambada. I mean, I think Cambada. I just think he's one of the best. Like, and I don't see his name a lot, and I don't see his name enough in that space to be considered. Elzai. I don't see Elzai's name a lot in top 5 lyricists or top 10 kind of lyricists. Like, if you heard him and you know, then yes, he's there.
Mm-hmm.
But like these are guys, when they drop something, I stop everything I'm doing.
Yeah.
To hear what they're doing, and if there's anything that's new that I can be like, oh, that's new.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I chose him. Lupe, obviously, like Lupe, from a creative and technical standpoint, it's not a lot of people that are higher than him. So when he drops, I stop everything.
Yeah.
You know, he played me something that I don't know when he's gonna drop it, that is so mind bending. It doesn't even seem real. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like a whole nother thing that's just it's mind bending. So I put him there, but people obviously show him that respect and that love from that space. So it's kind of hard to but those are the 3 people that I kind of just, you know, I stop whatever it is that I'm doing. If it's a Lux battle or a Lux Cypher freestyle, I'm stopping whatever I'm doing to pay attention to Lux.
Especially Lux, yeah.
Royce has been quiet, but if Royce drops, I'm stopping everything that I'm doing because he does a different style of writing that's high level.
Yeah.
Jid
is another one, absolutely.
Right now, he's losing his mind. I don't know what he's possessed. I stop everything for a Jid verse now.
Mm-hmm.
Andre, as much as I shoot at him in terms of not having enough content out there, there's one thing you can't deny. It's how he puts it together, how he delivers it.
Yeah.
It's unlike anything that's kind of out there. And he has the freedom to do that because there's no pressure when he's doing features. And so I stop everything when Andre drops something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that to me is high level. It's just he hasn't done it for 2 verses on a song. That's my only pushback with Dre, right? But that's that for him. Obviously, you know, you got
2 verses on a song. You think so? Really?
There's not a song where there are 2 rap verses, 2 16s and a chorus. There's not one that exists. There's not one that exists.
He's doing that, yeah,
by himself. It doesn't exist.
Damn it! I wish there was a chorus on a Life in a Day of Andre Benjamin.
That would have been the one, right? But it doesn't exist. And he has songs with 2 verses and a chorus singing, but there's not a rap verse that exists.
Yeah, there was a verse on he did that on the Best of Outkast when the first time you heard him singing an entire verse, and it was in addition to a rap verse. But you know, it's a shame. It's a shame. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Black Thought is another guy. I'm stopping everything I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Saha the Prince, I'm stopping everything I'm doing for Saha.
Yeah.
I'm stopping everything I'm doing for King Los. I'm stopping everything I'm doing for Ransom. 38 Special, I'm stopping everything I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And then I think Fonte. And then after Fonte,
yeah, man.
After Fonte and like Pharaoh Monch, then it's like, okay, this person dropped, that person dropped. Okay, cool. But like those guys that I named, those are the ones if they call my phone saying they need me to hear something, or they call my phone wanting me to get on something, everything in my life kind of has to stop because I have to focus on this.
You talking about the best of the game, of course. With that said, though, man, first of all, we appreciate your time, man. We appreciate all of the gems that you have been able to give us in this time period. We appreciate, especially on short notice. We just talked about doing this yesterday.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your time, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me up here. I'm available. If you need, a facts, thought process, and things like that. I'm willing to always come back up here. I believe that this space is a great place. You know what I'm saying? I think it's important for that conversation to happen. Like, the lyricism conversation needs to continue. Because the song conversation is always happening. The album conversation is always happening. Who had the better verse conversation is always happening. But the actual art form of lyricism conversation is very rare. So whenever there's an opportunity for me to engage, I'm stopping everything I'm doing to talk about that. You know what I mean?
We need that. We need your voice in this time period, and not even just your voice as a teacher, but also your voice as a practitioner. Because when I'm sure when these students see you do what you're doing, they recognize more and more how rare of an opportunity it is to learn from someone who's been able to learn from Mickey Factz. Like that's not an everyday occurrence. For some people, it's becoming that. But with that said, man, none of the stuff that we said today matters. You know why? Because AI is coming to wipe it all out, man. So, hey, all these albums I got, who cares about all of that stuff?
Were we supposed to have a conversation about that too?
It's just one thing I want to mention. I don't want to kill too much of your time, but how are you kind of navigating this? What are your zoomed out points of views? Do you feel like it helps or hurts? What are you thinking?
I don't believe rappers and artists should use AI lyricists should use AI to help them write their rhymes. So there's this thing where, I saw Lupe do the commercial where he's using AI to help him write a rhyme. He doesn't need to use AI to write a rhyme.
Right.
And I don't need to use AI to write a rhyme. So I don't particularly agree with that. And I don't think people should. However, I have used AI to rap like me to break down Bible verses. So I would say, can you write John 3:16? No, John, the whole chapter of John, can you write that in a Mickey Factz style?
That's interesting.
And then I'll be able to read it, and it'll be fire. It'll be fire. Like that's the only time I use rap with AI. If there's like a complex thing that I can't understand, or something that I feel, is I don't want to really get into it. Can you explain this to me as me with rhyme? And then I'll sit there and I'll read it. I'll be like, oh, this is fine. Okay, I get it now. To me, that's the only thing. I don't believe. Now, in terms of production, and I know you produce. So I want you to think about this from a perspective, right? And it's a question to you as well, because one of my producers did this. My producer is it Juno?
Suno.
He put in inputs for like gospel songs and like old R&B songs. He'll write the song and he'll tell Suno to sing the song, and it'll sound like 70s, 80s, 90s gospel or R&B, and then he'll sample from the song he created and create a beat that now is sample free because he created it right with AI. No producer is recreating a Marvin Gaye song. Like no hip hop producer is taking these people making a song just so they can sample it. No hip hop producer is doing that. So he would make soul samples with the AI and then make a beat from that to avoid sampling. And to me, I think that's genius.
So I hear you. I hear you. And I do respect what you're saying in terms of like the utilization of having it describe things back to you.
Mhm.
I had Chat GPT explain what reverse polarity was, but I said, do it in the voice of Bernie Mac. And it gave me an explanation. I was like, oh, that's what that is. We can get past all of the word salad. Now we finally get to it. From a production standpoint, I like the idea of assisted intelligence, right?
Okay.
AI. I like the idea of assisted intelligence. What I'm not a big fan of, and this is me personally, is how their lack of transparency about where they're getting their data training from, right? Or where they're training their data on. So even when I look at that example, where you have the producer, right? They're talking about using Suno. Suno denied up and down before they got sued by the major labels. They were like, nah, the way this AI thing works, you know, this is a bunch of coding. You don't have to worry about this. It's not being trained on copywritten work. Then they went to court and you know, they got in front of them people and they was like, okay, we trained off of tens of millions of music that was on the open internet.
Oh, I see.
So the big issue that's happening right now is that the major labels are at the point now where they went from suing Suno, and Udio is another one. They went from suing them to saying, all right, let's cut a deal. We'll give you license if you give us some equity in your company. The only problem is what happens to all of the independent artists who don't have a uniform representation. So right now there's a class action lawsuit. Shout out to Top Music Attorney. She has a YouTube channel. She's like at the helm of that, where she's like, look, they have admitted, and the government is kind of giving them even protection over the next 10 years, where it's like they don't want to stop any of this because they want to be ahead of this in terms of a country compared to other ones. So like even with your producer doing that, the issue becomes this. Suno CEO straight up said, it wasn't our goal to make people who are professionals be 10% better. Our goal is to make it to where somebody who has no business making music, an amateur, they call it a non-music professional. They want to get the opportunity for rappers and producers and singers to be given access to 1 billion people. That's their goal, is to get to 1 billion people. The Suno CEO said this, and I said, oh, they don't give a shit about us.
Yes. So to me, that is problematic.
So when your producer does that, I'm like, and I'm not getting on him at all. I'm just saying that as I'm learning more about it, I'm like, y'all had to get this from somewhere. Even like BBL Drizzy sound like, oh, okay, that's some Al Green, that's some
yeah, okay, so yeah, this is where this is, and I know that you wanted to get off, but this is where the slippery slope happens.
Sure.
There are producers who don't credit where they sample from. And they'll manipulate a song and a beat, and they don't credit where it came from.
Absolutely.
So how now let's and again, I'm just posing hypothetical because I'm not a producer. I produce, but I'm not a producer by trade. But let's just say you and I, we're from a particular era where the sound of the music felt differently. So if I want something along the lines, if I don't want to pay, let's say I'm a producer and I do not want to pay whatever the sample fee is for SWV's week, right? And this is just a hypothetical. I'm a producer. I don't want to pay for it. I sit down as a producer and I write a song. I just write the song. I feed it to Suno. Make it in the vein of a 90s R&B weak SWV song. They send it back to me. It sounds like this. And then I pull from this and make a beat. I speed it up. What is the difference between a producer not crediting?
I see what you mean.
Because this happened in the 90s a lot. And in the it's the Alchemist is still doing it. People dig right now. They dig, and then they don't credit the producer.
Right.
The original song. They're not crediting the original song. So what is the difference between a producer not crediting the original song from a producer writing a song and making it in the same vein of that song, and then all they're doing is pulling from what they wrote, because they don't have the finances not only to sample the record, they don't have the finances to have people create the music, drums, real drums, trumpet, whatever is being used as strings. They don't have that, so they pull from that and then make a beat, speed it up, slow it down, chop it, and make a. To me, Curtis, and you're a producer. What is the difference? And then I'm done.
No, you make a valid point, and I think these are forward moving conversations that we all have to have as creatives, because there's been things that, because they're appropriate in hip hop circles, we kind of feel like it bypasses what's going on the outside world. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of folks have made this point. Stealing is stealing, right? If you're taking somebody's master recording without their permission, you're not properly crediting them, there are repercussions from that. But I think that's the key. There are laws to protect those master recordings, right? I got buddies of mine that have sampled the Doors, and they sampled the Doors on beat tapes on Bandcamp, and then the Doors estate were like, we've been successful in suing Snoop Dogg, this person, and this person. You want to take it down and show us your analytics, or you want to get sued? They have laws to protect that. With AI, that I think is so dangerous is that not only are there not laws that are clear to protect it, because it's still developing every day, it's moving at such a rapid pace that it's not only just taking from master recordings and collecting them, it's also taking from the IP, the soul is what you're getting from there. So I think that there are two different levels of theft. I'm with you. I think that producers shouldn't be out here riding dirty, because eventually it's going to catch up to you. I'm sure it's happened to Alchemist, where he had somebody who was just, it might have been an abstract sample, and that estate found it, and they said, we're going to make your life hell for the next 2 or 3 months. It happens. So I'm with you, but I do think that there's laws that protect if somebody wants to pursue that. When it comes to AI and the way that it's being utilized, there's no regulations, and they're pushing it forward. As I'm criticizing Suno and Udio, another website called Murica pops up. Imagine that, it's called Murica. I think it's called Murica, whatever it is. And they straight up said this: rappers, do you hear a beat out there that you like, but you can't afford it? Pay a subscription to us, upload the beat. We'll make you a beat like that and give it to you 100% royalty free. So now they're flipping it back around, and they're encouraging you to help their data training and their theft of other people's IP. And it's being put in the hands, this library, this skill set is being put in the hands of people who didn't care to sit down and take the time that it requires to learn about the technical skills that come along with this. Who you are is a combination of so many thoughts and ideas, and success and failures and all these things. But you went through that journey, because that's who made you. You're getting folks on day one that are like, I want to DJ, but I don't want to learn how to DJ for the next 10 years. Here's my result. Oh man. And then not on top of it, I don't have a problem with that, because you know what that is? That's gamifying music for some people. Cool. The same thing happens with 2K, right? I can play like I'm LeBron. The only difference is they want this music to flood the same streets that our music floods. So it directly affects our pockets. So now when you get a Spotify, not to go on too much of a rant, but just to answer your question, when you get to Spotify and their pie system of paying, and how the people who have the most streams get the bigger slices of the pie, let them flood these streets with 30,000, 40,000 AI produced songs that were generated by amateurs. Now that 0.003 is going to get even less than that, Because I seen the AI band out the other day. They got 300,000 Spotify listeners. From where? You know what I'm saying? Like, so in any other business, what Spotify is doing would look like fraud and would look like laundering, in my opinion. But AI is helping to speed that process up. So it's getting tricky out here. I'm with you. Theft is theft. But I think this one is very uniquely different in so many different ways. And they're using us and our voices to be the front-facing people that promote it. And it's like, I know what's happening is going to happen. My thing is we should be always pressuring these folks to operate in ethical ways. I think that's the very least we can ask.
Okay. Listen. Listen. Listen, a lot of
questions like you, brother. I got questions just like you.
A lot of the albums that we consider classic have samples that were not cleared because they were stolen. So and because now I went on to the chat and people are like, it's theft, but we would never have gotten these songs
without theft. Yeah,
because the producers they were chopping it up so much that it's like, listen to the 10 Commandments. That's a sample. Anything before Swiss Beats is a sample. So we're talking about 18 to 20 years. And, some of this stuff was not paid for.
Yeah.
Some of it is low. They went and got something obscure. They might have went to England and picked out a opera or a classical song and pick just the strings and say, I made these strings. So but I'm with you though. Like I see your point. So I'm not pushing back on your point. I'm just saying that the practices that were happening before Swiss Beats came along, there was no pushback because niggas was just enjoying the motherfucking music.
And nowadays it's even more egregious because it's like, dog, you got access to real musicians who are creating these sample packs for you to enjoy, right? They play every instrument and they're giving it to you royalty free. On top of that, even if you say, okay, those don't sound the same as the records I would crate dig, well, you got what was I gonna say? You have access to TrackLib. TrackLib will give you direct vinyl, like they've uploaded them through the vinyl process, the record process, and they put this stuff up there. So it's like you have access to ways to do it the legit way. Wrong is wrong, but I also hate making that argument for them because they've made it even easier to do it, and they've made it to where even if you did take a record, crate digging is still something that requires work to do, right? And finding these parts to chop up and all of this.
See, now that's the answer I was looking for.
Right. That's the answer skill set that develops from there. Like my thing is this: I don't have a problem with the calculator, but I was taught how to do arithmetic before I had a calculator.
I don't have a problem with the calculator,
right?
But I know what to do if my calculator at that time, before computers, if my calculator broke, I know how to get through it.
I can get through this, yeah. A little paper.
To me, that work. That's the answers that I like, because now it puts me in a corner where I'm like, all right, cool, you got me there. You got me. I can't debate that. I can't debate that because that is work. Going and digging and having to decide if you want this record or not. You don't know if something's going to be on there or not. That's work. Now, what you do with it,
it's still wrong. But if you out there riding dirty, you out there riding dirty. Especially if you start making money up off of it. Yeah, and that's why I got a video. You don't know if you ever seen. I got a video with 1 million views. Where FL Studio, where I make my beats on, they came after me and they was like, "We see you out here doing well, Playboy, but it looked like you don't got a version of FL that you paid for."
Oh,
they got me. But you know the way I looked at it, and I'm not expecting everybody to look at it like this. That was my first hip hop moment where it was like, as a man, I can't even use hip hop to justify this. I'm using these people program that they didn't put their money into, and I was justifying it on some Robin Hood type shit, but it was really immaturity on my end. And I realized I was like, you know what? I got to get rid of all this shit because no wonder I had beats that got stolen. I had ideas that got stolen. Ain't that the pot calling the kettle black? So
that's karma giving you a paycheck.
Giving me a paycheck. But you know what? After I went legit, I haven't to this day, like that happened in 2016. I don't have any illegal hardware, any illegal software, plugins, drum packs. I've paid for everything, and I've been paid back really well for operating that way. Like I got more sponsorships after I said, yeah, I was riding dirty out here. So I do look at this and I say the silver lining for me, bro, is if we do get to a point where we start to question the things that you just questioned and it makes us operate in a more righteous way, I think the best is yet to come. Because I think that in a time period where it's nothing but, you know, this AI technology that is doing these crazy things, human connection will never be more important than it's ever been, right? Being a student in Pendulum Inc. is going to carry a different value because I can't get that from Chat GPT.
Oh, you definitely can't.
You know what I'm saying? Like I can ask you questions.
Because some of the stuff that we have just doesn't exist in the literary space. So we've tried to ask Chat GPT to do it.
But once I said the other day, smart prompts can't fix stupid humans.
That's fine.
Man, one more round of applause for you, bro. Like I appreciate you. I appreciate you also too. Being from the generation that you are and doing the things that you do, the way you've made yourself so accessible to conversations with people who haven't earned it sometimes, but you're still in a place where you're like, this is an opportunity for me to teach folks this art form that you obviously love, this culture that you love. And man, it's dope seeing folks who have been your students who are coming out here and you know, entering as one person and then coming out of a completely different person. Talk to these folks a little bit about Pendulum Inc, how to sign up, and where to stay connected with you at.
Okay, so pendulumink.com. You know, that's the very first thing you do. pendulumink.com. And you can sign up for $50 a month and be on our website and look at our 150 modules drip fed to you. And you get a chance to come to our legendary guest classes where we have a celebrity come and you can ask them questions. Or you can, you know, get the platinum package where you spend $250 a month and we teach you about 20 times a month how to be a better MC, and you're with other MCs in that space. If you don't want to be on the website and you don't want to be in the live classes, but you want to support and you love lyricism, then you can go to pendulumink.com, the merch section. You can get you some merch. It doesn't look like everybody else merch. It's high quality stuff. And you can get our textbook. Our textbook is in full color, 200 pages. You can download it or you can purchase it. And it has everything that me and Curtis discussed earlier today, from flow to pocket to multis to segmenting, which we taught earlier, safety pinning, and even higher level stuff like storytelling and method rapping and reverse punchlines and mirror morphs and triple entendres. All of these things are available to you. There is no excuse. If you want to support and be a better artist or a better lyricist, we have it here at pendulumink.com. You know what I'm saying? So go there, you know, get you a book. The book is beautifully written. Big Daddy Kane wrote the foreword.
Wow.
Right there. Big Daddy Kane wrote the foreword. Dr. Christopher Emden wrote the afterword. So the book is right there. You know, that's the digital book. That's some of the hats and stuff. I gotta update some of the merch because I got all the fly merch. I apologize. You know, but I'm gonna update all of the merch. If you want to get some shirts or some stickers or some hats, it's all there. But the main thing is the book, because we want people to really understand what it is that they're listening to, you know what I'm saying, and what it is that they're hearing or reading. And you know, it'll open your mind to listen to other stuff and be like, hey, okay, I understand what Mickey meant by this. Yeah. And I understand what this artist meant by this. There's not an artist out that if you send me their music and start playing it, after 2-4 bars, I can tell you everything that artist did in an instant. I can do it in an instant. just like Chat GPT. But it's Factz GPT. You heard?
I'm about to say it's better. It's better. Hello.
Somebody's gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Man, I personally just got to say, I keep saying we, but I personally just want to say thank you for everything that you do, because, you know, these events that happen in mainstream rap, sometimes they're short lived. Sometimes we don't know where it's going to be. It does feel like this is a really good environment for those who are rapping. Like there's a lot of rappers right now that are being met with a lot of reach, and the algorithm is being really friendly with them right now, because I feel like there's a influx of human beings who want to know more than just how their favorite rapper did something, but they want to know how they can do something. You using your time while at the same time creating new music, bro. Like it's something that I remember when I was going and looking for textbooks, the only book I could find, it was a good book, was How to Rap. And I almost felt embarrassed buying it. I was like, I can't let the homies see I had this. But it was like, I want to see the technical things that we keep bastardizing these English terms, but I've never met any lyricists that could describe technically what they're doing, except they would use this, oh yeah, I was just in my multi-bag. Well, what the hell do you mean when you say you was in your multi-bag? Like, what do you mean when you say that? Oh man, you know, I was just in my multi-sip. So it's like, I love the fact that you're breaking this down in a way that's going to stick with people. And even if they choose not to do music, so many of these skills I think are transferable because you're encouraging critical thinking. And I think that that's something that cannot be overlooked. So we salute you, man.
Thank you very much. I'm in the chat, so we don't have hardbacks. We have softcover books. The hardbacks will be the 3rd edition, because we're breaking down some more stuff. We have about 20 more lessons to put into the book, and then we're going to stop there. But you know, it's a softcover book, and it literally has everything in there. Freestyling versus off the top, how to do that. And, you know, a lot of the MCs that have come to Pendulum Inc., when I showed them the book, they can't believe that exists. They can't believe it. They see it and they're like, no. I can't believe this is it. So when Curtis went and bought a How to Rap book, that is cat in the hat compared to what we have. It's not even it's not even in the same field.
Yeah. And it's, once again, this was done by somebody, I think that was a journalist who made this, but you're making this as a practitioner. And it's about time. Like it's about time, because we're in a time period where we're fighting against a lot of things, literacy rates and everything else. There needs to be a place where people can reference back to it.
Yes.
And ain't no shame in no matter where you're at in your career, figuring out how to find different things to level up. Because like you said earlier, this is not physical sports where you physically deteriorate, but you don't use it, you'll lose it. That is one thing that happens with that, right? So salute to you, bro, man. Thank you again for your time, DIYers. Once again, make sure you hit that like button and all that good stuff. All the information is in the description. We appreciate your time. And yeah, DIYers, y'all have a good one. Thank you again.
Peace.
DIYers, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. Come on, man. Don't be greedy. Peace.